Welcome to the 2012 Fusion Podcast, presented to you by the Oregon Ministry Network. Fusion took place November 8th through 10th at People's Church in Salem. The following workshop, entitled Sticky Faith, was brought to us by Drew Smithson.
Talk about sticky faith, and especially talking about high school students to keep the faith after they graduate from high school when they go into college. Okay, so that's kind of what our focus is for the next few minutes. But always, youth pastors are trying to be cool, right? Trying to be cool and hip, right? You were trying to do that, and I know some of you working with children, and I know that you do too. But youth pastors a lot of time are known as kind of being cool kind of people. So maybe you heard about this brother who maybe was too cool of a youth pastor, if that's possible. Actually, out of Austin, Texas. After immersing himself in popular slang phrases, youth leader Dave Jackson has become completely unintelligible to members of his church, even the youth. We stopped understanding him about a month ago, says Tanya Gooden, 17 years old, of his youth group. It was a slow process. Now when he preaches, we have to assume a lot of things by his tone and not his words. Now when he preached, Dave Jackson tracked down at his church office, told a reporter, "For shizzle my nizzle, it's a Big Mac tizzle. You tracking? The get down was off the hook, brah. Big time ace. Days seen until the old folk rolled in and the crew got gone. Good Sunday, brah." Jackson can no longer speak plain English, even if he wishes to. At times, he desperately tries to cross the chasm of incomprehension he has built. For Senior Pastor Rich Leonard, that's not good enough. He's about to shizzle himself right out of a job, said that Senior Pastor Leonard. So we try to be cool, but sometimes maybe it's a little bit too much. Now this can be interactive, our next few minutes together, please. So if you've got any insight and ideas as we talk about trying to keep the next generation more connected, I've got a lot of stuff for you, and so I'll just kind of shoot it at you. And if you've got something to add or comments, it's all good. And raise your hand and on we go, okay? Because that's kind of what I like about breakouts. And then again, just very happy to be with you all up here, all right? College transition stats. 76% of college students are searching for meaning and purpose in life. That comes from a national study from UCLA. 76%. So a lot of students, they are searching for the meaning to life. Now here's the rub, and I think you know this. 50 to 65%, at least 50%, probably more, of high school students stop attending church after they graduate, right? We've all kind of heard that a little bit and maybe seen that. So probably at least 50%, maybe up to 65%. The interesting thing is, I'm sure you know this too, college students are taking longer to graduate now. 51% of college students graduate within 5 years. So they're going to be in college longer, which we could talk about budgets, right, and bills and all that kind of stuff, but they're staying there longer on those particular campuses as well. If you got your Bible there, turn over to 2 Timothy, if you have it on your phone or whatever, and chapter 1, verses 3 through 7, kind of talking and starting our groundwork as we think about these thoughts of helping these students, trying to take them deeper before they graduate out of our youth groups, which is a great challenge, obviously, since half of them or more we lose from the faith by the time they're 22. It's a big challenge and should be a real concern for us. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 3 through 7, talking about kind of heritage and legacy. Paul, of course, talking to his spiritual son Timothy. "I thank God whom I serve with a pure conscience as my forefathers did, as without ceasing I remember you in my prayers night and day, greatly desiring to see you, being mindful of your tears, that I may be filled with joy. When I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded is in you also. Therefore, I remind you to stir up the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. That's some good stuff right there. Lord, bless our time and all the electives right now, and the next one's coming. Thanks for these wonderful people that are spending the weekend with us. Bless them, and bless them during this time, and as they go back tomorrow, that you'd bless them as they go into their communities and their churches. Give them wisdom, give them insight, give them anointing, give them everything they need, Lord. It all comes from you, and we give you praise in your name. Amen. Well, it's probably time to ask some hard questions since we've lost so many students in the past, and I think it's good. So, number one question, you have something to write with there? Looks like most of you do. What is your goal? Now, what I mean by what your goal is in our context is this. What would you like your junior high student to look like spiritually at the age of 30? Right? So think about that. Think about a junior higher. You know in your church, and you're like, wow, I don't know if they and myself will make it to 30. We may kill each other, or whatever. But so we're looking ahead. We're thinking about leaders and all of that. But what would you like them to have? What could you impart in them now in your ministry that if they were 30 and they had that gift, that characteristic, what would be like, yes, we reached our goal. Okay, you got at least one thing you wrote down, or you got it in your mind? Did you write something down? All right, think about that. What would be a goal? So 2, then, it follows, what are you passing on? To reach that goal, what are you giving to your students that you would like them to have when they're 30 and they've made it through college? They might be married, they might not be, but they're adult, they're growing, and hopefully growing in the Lord. What are you passing on specifically that will help with that? Now, we know with these students that it's late adolescents and emerging adults, right? That's kind of what we're doing there. It means a lot of things. One is a lot of them are living longer at home. At least that's true down in Southern California. I don't know if it's true up here. I assume that it is. But you have some people 25 to 30 they're back home. They've gone back home. The budget's probably better, whatever. The food might be better, whatever the reason. Their school bills, trying to get a job and all of that. So that's happening. And so where maybe as a junior high or high school student you talk to them about identity crisis, it might be time to have that class again. With your college students, with your next gen on a different level as they're trying to find what God has for them at this point. Now think about this. Christianity has been understood. Someone said this. Christianity has been understood but not internalized. Do you agree with that? Christianity has been understood but not internalized. Is that part of our problem? It probably is, right? We would ask a lot of students that came through our youth ministry, they've got it here, they love Jesus, they've got it that He's it, but have they really made that lasting commitment, that internalized, that it's deep within there, or is it more here in their head knowledge? And it happens to a lot of students. There's no doubt about that. Now, I'm using that term sticky faith, not my original term, came from Fuller Youth Institute down in SoCal. They have a great ministry because they are fully funded to do research. So it helps all of us youth pastors. It's really a cool thing. There's people with some money who come along and said, research, what is this problem? What's happening with youth ministries in America? And so they've put some money there, and there's some great researchers. And some of you know my buddy back in the day who was youth pastor right here, Mike DeVito. And when he left here, he went to San Diego First Assembly, and there was a girl in his youth ministry named Kara, a brilliant gal. She took the SAT, and she passed it. She got 100% on the math. So genius, went through Stanford in 3 years, and she's a youth worker. Maybe it's intimidating for us all, but she's great, and actually at Fuller, and one of the researchers, and so she's really helped us. Well, why? Why are we losing these students, and what can we do about it? And so some interesting things they found, and when you talk about research, and check it, feel free to check out Sticky Faith. Just go and check it out online, and you can find out a lot of things there. But what was cool is their research was with 400 students after they graduated from all kinds of different denominations. That's pretty good research. Sometimes you hear research and you go, I wonder how many students, who are they? 400. And they tracked them for 3 to 4 years after they graduated from high school. So that's a good study for us. It's very helpful for us to think of some things. So here's a couple things. With the high school students, they ask them these questions. At least part of kids' motivation to come to youth group is because they want to connect with God. As we mentioned, the top reason high school seniors give for being part of a youth group is, I like my youth pastor. That's the number one reason. That students in America, why do you go to youth group? I like my youth pastor. All right? So that's a whole nother talk for another time, but what does it take for them to like you, right? And like me? What does it take? Does it mean that we're lenient? There's no rules? No. We know that it means basically getting into their life, loving them, hanging out, that. But that's the number one reason when students in America go to a youth ministry, they like their youth pastor. But what else? Here's the other top 5. 2, they learn about God there in their youth ministry. 3, they feel comfortable there. 4, they can really worship God. And 5, they've always gone. It's kind of a tradition. Now that particular one is the 5th top reason why students go to our youth ministries, but as we know with that, it's not going to help them stick, right? It's a tradition. Okay, so I'm going to move out of town. I'm going to go to college. Well, they've moved away from their church. So that one's not going to fly long term. But when they ask, what's your top 5 reasons? Why did you go to that youth group? Did you like it? Yes, if they had a positive experience. There's the top 5 reasons, okay? Now, high school seniors were surveyed, and what did they want to see in their youth ministries? What more could have happened? What would they like to see have happened that maybe happened, maybe didn't happen as much? Now, and they were asked that, and here's their top 5 of what they would have liked to have added to the youth ministry that they were a part of. Now, the interesting thing was, maybe you think, more games, more interaction, that kind of a thing. That's actually the bottom of the list. Remember, we're talking about 400 students, different denominations, all right? So it's not like 1, 2, 3, or 10. 400, right, students said this, okay? So here's their top 5 of they would have liked this part of their youth ministry too. Number 1, time for deep conversation. So let's say in your youth ministry, you aren't doing kind of a small group kind of a deal, or some kind of a time where you take time to take a deeper conversation. Actually, students would really like that. They would really like that. So maybe that's something that you schedule in either during your youth meeting or another time. That part of our time is there's going to be some questions where they can go deeper. Well, students are asking for that, and they want that. 2, missions trips. Oh, I always felt like mission trips had to be part of our youth ministry. You probably do too. That we need to do that. Now, down where I was, Southern California, and then a lot of times San Diego, Mexico for a long time was really easy for us, and we built homes and we did all kinds of stuff. Mexico, you can't get a lot of parents enthusiastic about it because of some of the dangers and what have you. But there's a lot of other places that we can go, and I just always have felt that our students, I really wanted our students not to graduate from high school unless they'd gone on a missions trip. So that's something maybe Sean even remembers. I said it for years, bro, and I always say that get a passport, go on a trip. If you don't want to travel out of the country, and I very much advise you to travel out of the country, we got a great place down in called the Dream Center. That'd be a great place for you to bring your students. It would be a great experience. So do something that's a missions trip. 3, it goes along with it. They wanted service projects. These are students. It's not youth pastors. We'd get it if it was youth pastors, right? Sure, they want missions trip, and sure, they want service projects. No, the students would have liked that. They would like more service projects, more mission trips as part of their youth ministry. Number 4 is accountability, actually. They would like more accountability with leaders. It would help them to grow in their lives, and that is a good idea. That is a very positive thing that we need, and it follows the number 5 is one-on-one time with leaders, and one-on-one time with leaders. So it's really switched, my friends, and you probably realize this, or maybe you didn't realize it's kind of a full circle with our culture today now. When I started doing youth ministry in the 80s, I was at a church, and one of the reasons I went to that church, not too far from where Brian and Barbara were at too, we had a high school across the street. When I drove up for my interview, I said, hey, there's my people. They're across the street. I mean, literally you could walk, and there was the high school. So I thought, that's cool. And it was a closed campus as far as you couldn't do a Bible club, but they had an open campus at lunchtime. And so what we started doing once a week is we'd actually cook them a meal, and I got the best cooks in our church, and we'd cook them a meal, but 5 minutes before they ate, we had a little devotional, and then I would say something to the effect of, hey, we have youth tonight, we'd love to have you come, and we built our youth ministry that way, and it was pretty good. We're hanging out with students. Well, afterwards, a lot of times, I'd be on the corner and say, hey, I'll buy Cokes. There was a Carl's Jr. at the end of the street. I'll buy some Cokes in there. Who's with me? Well, I'd have a lot of people go with me, or I'd shoot hoops with students or whatever and say, if if I win, you got to listen to me. If you win, I'll listen to whatever you want me to. And I would do that. And most of the time I lost on one-on-one basketball, but they still had to listen to me because I listened to them. I said, by the way, one more thing. And so I gave them a little Jesus before we parted ways. I'm hanging out. I'm building relationships, and we build our youth group that way. You fast forward to the 90s, and it's been good, and it's been excellent because you had a thing come along called purpose-driven. Right? And so everything that you do, there's a purpose to it. And I thought that was good. And if you go to an amusement park, if you go to a camp, if you go to a mission trip, whatever you do, if you're going to have an all-nighter, there's a reason behind it. Kind of organized our youth ministry. So that was good. But what I see now, and I think the students bear witness to that, it's back to hanging out with students. It's still the ministries we've had, but it's still hanging out. I really feel, not just for me, but for our students, my friends, that Starbucks is from God. I really do. And this coffee, I got a little coffee today. It's pretty good out here at this church. These are all God-inspired ideas. They really are. Why? Because, yes, the coffee is good, but it's a place to just kind of hang out. And, yes, people do their homework and all that. I got that. But it helps us, right? So you Northwest folks from Seattle on down to you are moving in God's Spirit living up here. Who knew? You knew. And way to go. And it's awesome. But I believe that we're kind of back to that. And that's what students want. So it goes back to our talk this morning about a team. How big is a team? You can't be big enough because let's say you want to go one-on-one with all your students. Well, what if your group grows to 100 students? You're going to need maybe 100 leaders. Or at least 50 leaders to hang out with too. So the more leaders, the better. Because what do they want? And again, we have a critical need, my friends. And that is we're losing students from the faith. So when we hear that, don't we think, what are we going to do about it, right? Well, there's a lot of things we can do about it, but one thing we can do about it is let's empower leaders, let's get leaders going, and let's mobilize and let's hang out with students before they graduate from high school. I think it's critical. And guess what? Students are asking for this. So these are some big deals that come through Fuller, and I think it's very helpful for us to kind of consider that. Now, there was an article, I think, USA Today, and you probably saw it, young adults aren't sticking with the church, okay? And so they asked them, why aren't they sticking with the church, okay? So the other end, they've graduated, they go off to college, they don't continue to go to church. Why is that? Well, here's some of the reasons, okay, why they leave, okay? 27% said they wanted a break from church. Okay, that's what they said was the reason. 26% found church members judgmental or hypocritical. Now, that's always a big one. And we can say that's a cop-out, and that probably would be true too. But I just think that a lot of times Christians, we're kind of known as being angry. I think we're kind of known as being angry sometimes. And you say, well, I knew this was coming. This guy is from California. So he's probably for abortion. Wrong. I'm not. He's probably for homosexual rights. I am not. So I'm not saying that. What I am saying is as an illustration, not every year, but a lot of times my wife's brother lives about 2 blocks from where the Rose Parade always takes place. He's in Pasadena. So a lot of times that's the way that we'll start the year. We'll kind of visit them, spend the night, and then we'll go out and see the parade, whatever, and have lunch and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of it's a family tradition, shall we say. So you probably have watched, you've seen the Rose Parade? Yes? All right? And on television, whatever, so you see the floats and the bands and all that kind of stuff. And probably when the Ducks were in there last year, the Ducks were there, right? The band and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. So you see all of that. What you don't see when the cameras go off is you have protesters at the end of the parade. Now, they're Christians. And I always kind of wrestle with it a little bit because I think maybe this is what John the Baptist was like. And like he was the best prophet ever, Jesus said. So I wrestle with it a little bit. But they have signs, and it's like, if you're gay, you're going to burn in hell. And they have a few of these gigantic banners with megaphones. And I know one year when I was out there was a lot of signs. I mean, cameras had gone off. They're going on to football games or whatever on January 1st. And so you've watched the parade if you're not on that parade route. Well, here they come. Because the police have kind of held them back. They don't want them on television. And I have no doubt that they're Christians. So that's why I wrestle with it a little bit. It's like, is that passion? But the one thing I would say is they seem a little angry. I don't see a lot of joy. And I know one time they seemed so angry. And where we were standing, kind of where we went to see the parade, there was a hotel behind us. So people could kind of look out over the balcony and kind of see the parade. Then they saw them, and I saw people go, those Christians. And so what I just decided to do, I'm walking to my brother-in-law's house, but all the way, because I'm walking by this hotel, I'm going, and Jesus loves you too. I'm just saying that. I'm smiling. I'm trying to yell back at these people in the hotels saying, He does love you, even though you might. That's Christians. They're judgmental. And we see where these students get it, right? It's that image that we have of being hypocritical, judgmental, angry. And a lot of times you don't hear from society, unfortunately, hey, Christians, they're loving. They're the ones making a difference. Oh, I love to hear it. With what Pastor said last night about New York, do you know after all that disaster, after the hurricane hit, you know who the first people were there on the ground? Convoy of hope, ladies and gentlemen. Convoy of hope. Now, why don't we hear more about that? Now, that's love. That's compassion. If you've ever given the Convoy of Hope, all around Haiti, first one's there. In Indonesia, with that tsunami, first one's there, Convoy of Hope. Praise the Lord. And people just don't know that that's compassion ministry. That's Christians really doing what God's called us to do. And unfortunately, it's an image that we have to change, all right? 25% said they moved to college, so they weren't able to find a church. It was like their home church. 23%, why did they not go to church any longer? They were tied up. They were busy with their work. 22%, see, it's a lot of almost equal reasons here. 22% moved too far away from their home church. 22% said they're too busy. 20% felt disconnected from people at church, at their old church. I want to talk about that. I think, some solutions on that one. So 20% there. 18% disagreed with church stance on political, social issues. Okay, so that we see that. 17% spent more time with friends outside of church. So that's they were hanging out with friends rather than going to church. 17% went only to please others when they used to go to church. Maybe their parents made them go or whatever, right? And so now I'm free, right? And all that kind of a deal. So some of the reasons why they're not sticking with church. So I found some good things from Sticky Faith and some things I've added to for just your consideration today. And that is maybe some ideas before your students graduate. What can we do? We got an epidemic. A lot of people leaving the faith after they go to college. So what do? Do we just take it? Or do we love these students that we're going to fight for them? We're going to fight, and I think we can fight for them. They're worth the fight, aren't they? They may have come through our youth ministry, but they're still worth the fight because it's souls, and we want to take them deeper. So before they graduate, here's just some ideas for your consideration. Maybe you've done some stuff at your church, and we'd love to hear it. Okay, so before they graduate, one, in the fall of the student's senior year, start asking them, and I love this, how the topics you're talking about at youth group, whether it's sex, friends, if it's a book of the Bible, whatever you're speaking on relates to what they'll be facing in college. Wouldn't that be a great discussion? Or you make kind of that last year. Maybe you have a class just for seniors in high school. Maybe divide them on Sunday. Maybe there's just a way. But you're prepping them for college. And so what you're teaching on gets them ready for that. That would be an incredible topic if you pull the seniors, I think, that are headed for college, and you did a whole class about facing sexual temptation. Would that not be appropriate? To talk to them, or just facing peer pressure. It's like you kind of come back to that, because at some point you probably talked about that. But with the seniors you did it, because if you're going away to college, you're going to face peer pressure, right? Get drunk, parties, sex. So you do a whole talk that you're equipping your students before they graduate. It's this thing, I wish I had thought about it when I was a youth pastor. Next, create opportunities for students to express their doubts by asking them what questions they have about their faith. Now, that would be a great one, right? So we teach them what we believe, but we also open up and say, now, any doubts about Christ, the validity of the Bible, whatever, if they can answer it there in that safe, loving community, won't they be ready for college? Or won't it at least help? Right? Because you've equipped them. You've just armed them a little bit. And so they'll be able to represent their faith, I would think, better when they go off to college. It's like a dry run almost that you're doing with them. Next, invite youth group graduates who are already in college to come and share about their experience after they have graduated, as well as give recommendations on how to have a faith that thrives after high school. Some of them are making it, right? If it is 50% or 65%, praise the Lord, there's 50, there's, 35% to 50% who are making it. So there's some out there. And what was it? Did they get in with a great Chi Alpha? Did they find a church that was really effective? What are some of the ways that they've been able to keep the faith and you bring them back? Maybe it's during the Christmas break or it's some other time that they come back. That would be helpful, right? That's a resource for you. That's a very positive resource that we do. So these are just great ideas to kind of stir up that pot. Still talking about before they graduate, the students, the seniors, we're prepping them. In the winter, early spring, schedule a training series for seniors on some of their most pressing transition issues, including friendships, loneliness, and finding a church that's near the campus that would be good. So you're helping them. Again, you're prepping, right? You're helping and walking with them. This is part of the journey, and it's not over till they leave the youth ministry / your town, right? Okay? Another idea, at times invite students' parents to join them for a training series. Now, not always, but you can invite the parents once in a while to come and say, hey, you're concerned about your kids going off to college. I'm your partner, right? As youth pastors, we're the parents' partners, right? I remember when I started out in youth ministry, parents were like, competition. We've got to be cooler than them. I don't know where we got that idea. It's a horrible, dumb idea. We're partners. Now, I'm glad we kind of come full circle. You're living, in a lot of ways, you're living in a great era to be in youth ministries and children's ministries. This is like the golden era. It's true. I believe that. And this is another good one. We're partners with the parents. We love these kids. So we bring the parents in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about concerns. Let's get it out on the table. Now, what can we do about that? That would be good. Another idea, schedule a senior overnight or weekend retreat or short-term missions trip either right before or right after they graduate. Make sure to give plenty of time for both fun and personal sharing about their concerns. What would be their concerns going off to college and their faith and all of that, all right? So that's some good things that we can do there. Now that's before they graduate. Now after they graduate, okay? So what should they go off to college? Is there anything that we could do? Yes, there is, all right? Encourage your small group leaders to consider a commitment to graduates' first year of college as a 5th year of mentoring. Now that would be cool, right? And aren't we without any excuse anymore about staying connected to these students, right? We could do Facebook. We could do Twitter. We could do so many things with these students to stay, at least try. Now, if they're not responding back, that's their issue. Sometimes we can see on their Facebook, oh, I see exactly what they're into, right? Because sometimes they'll be very real, for better or for worse. But that's a way to stay connected. And if they've been in a small group, that would be cool, I think, if our small group leaders stayed on it. We stayed connected with them. That would be awesome. And have it developed a Facebook page, whatever, your youth ministry. You could even do a specific one for college students that you're connected with. That'd be cool. Next, schedule a youth group meeting dedicated to writing notes or baking cookies. Everybody loves that for youth group graduates who are now in college. Not only will the college students appreciate the care packages, but your high school students will realize that they won't be forgotten when they graduate. Yeah. So maybe you all have a Tina like I had and Elisa, who they'd use their gifts and it was cooking was one of their gifts, whatever, or not. But that you'd send something off just so those students know they're not forgotten. Next, provide opportunities for students to reconnect and share stories when they return from college for the holidays. Next, every once in a while, send out a group email to college students with personal updates, what's going on in the youth group and in town, but also what's going on with them at college. Next, establish a network on a free social networking. We talked about this site and ask your students to host and update it. And then remember college students who stay local. Now, what about them? They don't go away. But that's kind of not strange, but challenging. That's a challenging point for those students because others have gone away. They maybe didn't have the money or whatever, right, to go away. Is it true? I mean, Southern California, I assume it's true with you all here. Junior colleges are packed. I mean, overflowing. My youngest son, needed one class. He could not get a class at a junior college. He was trying to save money. It's just packed. And I said, well, just go and just kind of wait out the professor, whatever. He goes, I wasn't alone. There was all kinds of people waiting to try to get the professor to sign on that we could be in this class. I mean, it's understandable with the cost of tuition. And so you have that, so you have a lot more people sticking around. So what about them, all right? They still aren't part of the youth group as far as students. Now, they could become leaders, but can you do a whole nother ministry for them? Is that part of your next-gen ministry to them? Should be, right? So that's a whole different dialogue, but that's a chance to really stay in their life. Maybe they're going to be around another year or two. Okay? And that's very important that we look at that, okay? Now, a couple more things, and then as we wrap up, if you've got questions and comments, I'd love to hear that, because I've got all kinds of different things. But here's a big issue for your consideration of the top 10 reasons why we lose some students, besides the top 5 and some of those. Students said in their top 10, one reason we lose them is they never connected with their senior pastor while they were in town. That is a biggie. Now, I don't know that you do it up here, but we have a few churches in Southern California, and it's been a concern of mine, and now it really is with this statistic, because we have some churches where the youth ministries, now it's on Sunday, and I don't have a problem with that, because a lot of people are involved in sports. We talked about that earlier today, and so there's schedules. So kind of the youth group meeting is Sunday. But my problem with it is then they're never in the adult service. So they graduate from high school, adults, right? They can vote, 18. In America, you're adults, right? They are. Yet they were not in an adult service that much in some of our churches. They weren't encouraged because there was youth on Sunday, and then they left if there was multiple services or whatever. And I'm encouraging, and the statistics bear it out, we got to get them connected with our senior pastor. That's a proven statistical fact, okay? They didn't have that relationship. Why? They go into another town, no relationship with the senior pastor, with the adult crowd, right? So we got to get them connected. That's a goal we should have. If you have a youth service on Sunday, no problem. Hopefully you have multiple services so they could go to the adult service. If not, maybe we move that youth service to Sunday night or another time that will still work, because they need to get connected, thinking about long term. We're talking about the long run, not just 18 and we're done with them. That's why we lose a lot of them. But the long run, long faith. So I got to get them together with my pastor. I'm going to try and build a relationship. That's on that side. Now, maybe you go this side, and probably none of you have this here. But honestly, we have one or two. Out of 420 churches, we probably have one or two of our churches in Southern Cal, probably more, where the pastor, when he or she speaks, really doesn't connect with a younger crowd on that side. Right? So that could be a gripe. Okay, you want me to come to the adult service? I'm coming. I'm not connecting with our senior pastor. So what I've mentioned to a lot of other senior pastors is when you speak, don't forget 18 to 29-year-olds. Right? It's the whole church. These are your people. But don't forget, you got this crowd and we're losing them. So showing them some love and concern and talking to them where they're at as part of your sermon. And I know it's a challenge, and I'm going to figure this out real fast, I think, next year. If you brought me back in a year, I'll be saying, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need counseling. But anyway, but I know that they want to get connected, college students, seniors in high school with their pastor, so we got to get them together. But I think we can help our pastors by saying, don't forget next gen. Don't forget when you speak, when you minister, when you have vision that we need to reach out, when you want to take people deeper. They are a critical group to take deeper. The other thing that I want to do, and not enough people have given me a shot, but I'm trying to do it, and you could help with your students, is before they graduate, you're finding out where they're going to go to school, okay? So you find out where they're going to go to college, and then you find out, and I'm trying to do this, I would be available to do it for any of our students, not enough at taking advantage. But find out where is a good church for next gen in the area of that college. Right? Can we all do that? Aren't these... Oh, Pastor Drew, that we have so many students graduating next year. Aren't they worth it, friends? I know you're busy. I know we talked about it this morning. I know. But we're losing them from the faith. Maybe we're going to get them back by 30 years of age. Maybe not. If we get them back, did they go through hell on earth from their 20s to their 30s? Maybe. Can we help them? Can we fight for them? I say they're worth the fight. I believe that. So part of that fight, besides prayer and love and cookies and notes and all of that, is that let's help them find a church. I do it. Like I said, I love doing it. I don't get to do it enough. But when I hear a student is going to UCLA, for that matter, we have a church over on kind of on that west side. It's really good for college students to go to. So I'll always suggest, there's this church. It's called LA Faith Tabernacle. Go there because they get it. Because some UCLA students will come there, and then kind of the Chi Alpha, there's a Chi Alpha down there that's real good at UCLA, then they'll get connected on that side. So I'm always doing it. You don't have to, but that's an idea. That's one church I think that's part of our follow-up with the students too. Because again, we're thinking, remember, not just when they hit 18 and they graduate, it's over, we're done. And I'm saying to us, reminding us, we need to think longer term. We need to think, how are we going to help them get through their 20s so they're strong? Remember, one of the original questions, you have junior hires now. What would you like them to look like at 30? This is part of that longer kind of faith that we have as far as that goes. About 5 minutes and then we need to break. Questions, comments, thoughts, things you've done for students, trying to take them deeper, trying to get their faith to stick.
Bro. You mentioned about kind of making creative ways that they can voice their doubts. Something actually I learned from Brian years ago was we do what's called a stupid question box, and you put your dumb questions about God, things that you are too embarrassed to ask,
awesome,
that you really want an answer to, completely anonymous, and then we pull them out, and then we have the leaders take them. Hey, you got 2 weeks. I really want you to find some answers in the Bible to this. And then the Wednesday night, you have to come back and answer this stupid question. So
great.
So that's a great. Doubts are answered, and they don't look stupid. So.
That's a great idea. That's thinking it through and working with them, and that's you're creating a safe environment. You created a safe environment for them. Yes, bro.
One of the coolest things that my youth pastor did for us was he took every senior, he went with them to go visit colleges.
Great.
Huge. I mean, every single senior, he would go. It didn't matter if it meant going up to Kirkland, going as far as, I think the furthest he went was like North Dakota or something like that. He went with the students, and, he was just like another parent.
Great.
He'd ask the kid, what do you think? And the kid would ask, we'd ask him, well, what do you think? And it was just huge because he was a process of that. And I think that if as a youth pastor, you're a process of the college, during the college hunt, that's going to create more of a relationship in college when they're still, when they're in college, so they don't forget their youth pastor.
I love that. I love that idea, and I just totally agree with that. And what's cool about that brother is he took them to different colleges. If they felt like God was calling them back east or up north or whatever, he did that. Now, we had one youth pastor in Southern California. He had graduated from Central back in Missouri. He took all of his students there, and I said, do you think? And I said, I know you love that school. That would be like me. I'm a graduate of Vanguard. If I did that in my students, I took them around too. But I said, do you think God could call your students to any other school in America? Is it possible? Which it is. And that's, again, it was fine what he was doing. It was kind of a joke with us. But that's a healthy way to help students. I'm going to go with you. Let's check it out. Now let's think it through. Does that hit your major? Did you feel called? That's an awesome idea. And again, what are we saying to the students? I'm with you. I'm going to walk with you. You go to this college, I'm still with you for another 4 years. I'm there, maybe 5. It's taken a lot of them 5. But I'm with you. We're going to talk. If it's social networking, if it's on the phone, whatever. But I've helped you get to this point, and I'm going to continue. And I'm a phone call away from you calling if you have any needs. It's being partners with these students. I just don't think we've done that in the past. That's why we've lost a lot of them, and there's some things that we can do to really create more partnerships. And I think in doing that, the result is going to be incredible. Hopefully you've read, and it's not your most positive book ever, but it just kind of gives you the mindset. Have you read the book Unchristian?
No.
Who's read it? A lot of you have. It's very helpful. I'd get it. I'd read it because what it has is a lot of folks that never saved or once saved or whatever, but they've turned away. Why aren't they Christians now? And it really helps you with that whole mindset. And there's a big percentage of them that are in there that they did go to church as youth group members, but they're no longer serving the Lord. Very helpful for you to think about their mindset and some of these things that we've talked about. Today. Anything else before we roll? These are just, and there's many more. Bro.
I was going to say, another thing, and you may have hit on it a little bit, but Chi Alpha is a huge resource, especially if you have someone who's going to a Christian college and a non-Christian college, and there's a Chi Alpha ministry there. They say, and students that go to college, the friends that they meet within the first couple days are going to be their friends for the rest of the while they're at college.
Right, for sure.
So if you can connect them with Christians on the college immediately, that's going to be so helpful. And if you can get a Chi Alpha guy that says, hey, we got this meeting here, help them move in and connect them, that's huge.
It really is.
And most Chi Alpha pastors I know they're just waiting for those phone calls.
Yeah.
It's not like they don't have time. They're hoping a youth pastor will call and say, hey, my student's going here, will you connect with them? Here's their Facebook or their cell phone or whatever.
And that's very easy for you to do, because if you don't know, they're going to this school and there's their Chi Alpha. Pastor Brian would know. He would know all your Chi Alpha folks up here. I know when somebody calls me, I'm thinking about UCLA. There's a great Chi Alpha there. I personally started the Chi Alpha at USC. So now there's a Chi Alpha there, because now there's a whole team running it. So I can help there. San Diego State, they say, is one of the biggest party campuses in America. There's a big Chi Alpha down there. So we're kind of armed and ready for these students to try to help them navigate through all those kinds of things. We know these resources. You just have to take advantage of them, because again, the students, they're worth it, aren't they? Our students are worth it. So, anybody else? This is good. Brother.
I really like what you said about talking to the lead pastor about speak to the 18 to 29-year-olds. What are some things a youth pastor could say to a senior pastor to help with that?
Well, what would be really cool, but I know, excuse me, not on here, and we're talking about team this morning, so it would be awesome, but I know it doesn't work everywhere, if the lead pastor would allow the youth pastor, children's pastor, the staff to help him or her create the sermon. Like a creative team. Now, we have some churches that do that. You probably do up here too. That's what their creative team is. Their staff pastors. Now, you've got to get away from insecurity, right? You got to do that where you're saying, I didn't create this whole sermon. I have a whole team that helped me. And I don't mean, okay, let's put it all in the youth pastor. Oh, he's creative. Or the children's pastor. And they really came. No, the senior pastor needs to do it. But if he at least would get some ideas from his team. Even if they're lay, but how can we reach younger people? How can we reach families more effectively and incorporated that team? I see, brother, a lot of times when I see that happen, it's just more holistic to preaching. Because they're thinking about, right? Children's pastors, if a pastor asks you, you're thinking about the kids, right? And the parents. So then you're ready to help him on those issues even more. We who work with youth, we're kind of youth specialists, aren't we, quote unquote? We're reading and studying and all. We can help our lead pastors with this culture, right? And so you can. And so if your pastor hasn't tapped you, I'd really encourage you, and you could ask very nicely and say, can I be a resource for you? Can I help you reach younger people? I can find some statistics. I can find some videos. I can do some things. But if he would incorporate them as a team, brother, I think that would be cool. If not, maybe it's just every once in a while it's an email. Hey, Pastor, I saw this in USA Today. Here's this stat on think about it. Can you use it? Great. If you don't, great. I don't care. I just found this little statistic. And if he uses it, then you go, okay, I'm a resource that way. I think it would be really helpful for that. Yeah, bro.
I listen to my pastor's podcasts of the sermons.
Yes.
And then I look for opportunities to share with him things from his message that I know apply to students.
Great.
In those younger ones. And I found that real beneficial for me just because I'm not in the service.
Sure.
But I'm making an effort. And then I'm able to disciple him that way. And it's not as intrusive to him.
Cool. I was going to say, and does he receive that well?
He does.
He does. And that's great. So he's open to that, seeing that. And you're doing youth or children's, bro?
Yes.
You're doing both? You're doing both? You're doing both. And I can relate. I did that 10 years myself. So you're doing both, and he knows you're a youth, children, family, next-gen specialist. I mean, I would look at you that way and say, you're in the trenches, thank you. You're helping me to think about that audience out there. Because I think if we're always going to preach to kind of an older crowd, that's another way we're going to lose them. Yeah. Right? And when they go away, they'll go, oh, senior pastors, that's just the way they talk. They talk way over our heads, or it's not relevant or whatever. So we're helping students in our church. We're helping students when they go to other churches. We're even helping pastors in other churches that we don't know. Right? Because if students go there and leaders and whatever, when we have relationships and can say, hey, let's be relevant. Let's think about a younger crowd in our churches. It's very, very very important. So what you folks do, I hope you all have a shot where you can speak into your pastor's life and help. If you don't, I think it's worth a conversation, because ultimately, again, what's our goal? Helping these students long-term. To be long-term, to kind of turn it around. And wouldn't it be cool, wouldn't it be awesome if they'd look back at this era, the 2000s, this second decade in the 2000s, and say it was the young leaders in America that turned it. They look back, if Jesus doesn't come back by 2020, and said, this decade, I think it was the young leaders. They're actually the ones, because now we only lose 30% from the faith, or whatever that stat would be. That would be. And you could measure that. That'd be a cool goal. That'd be pretty awesome. All right, you guys are good. Anybody else? I've got you, young lady, and then one more question, and then because we start. The next one's at 3, right?
Yeah. You got time.
We okay? We all right? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna kind of comment on that whole thing about your senior pastor. Something I tried this pastor that was huge was I invited my senior pastor to come speak as part of 3 different series downstairs.
Cool.
And preach, and we also did an open mic Q&A with our lead pastor.
Love it.
And our youth ate that up, and he started coming to he would come to one day of summer camp, and he would come to one night before youth convention, and then they all started coming on Sundays because they met him kind of in their own comfort zone and atmosphere. And now we have more kids attending Sunday mornings than we've ever had before.
I love it. That's a great idea. Great. Awesome. That's getting that pastor so they realize, oh, he's not this holy guy. He might be this holy guy, or she might be this holy lady, but they're real. You made it where they're real. They're down there, they're hanging out with the students. I love that. Anytime, last few years, our youth convention we've had in San Diego, and when I see, we always invite senior pastors to come, especially San Diego. You can drive in and whatever. And when I see them out in the crowd, one, we're all blessed, but two, I don't see the students like, oh man, our senior pastor's here. Are you kidding me? Oh, I can't believe I have never seen that way. If that's true, I don't know it. Usually they're rallying. They're excited. Our senior pastor came with us tonight. He's willing to hang out at a place that's loud and rowdy and all this stuff, but he's cool. Great idea to do that, to include him. It's a gentleman, is your senior pastor. Include him more into the ministry. Bro.
Question. Have you seen in the research anywhere any studies on the longevity of the youth pastor in its relationship to the strength of the youth ministry?
I have it on this specific about keeping students connected.
Of the longevity
of the youth pastor.
In
right.
Job. Too often, they change.
There's no doubt.
3 or 4 years.
There's no doubt. I could just tell you from my own experience, and it's almost another subject on church health. Let's include that on church health. When I got to my second church when I was down with Brian and Barbara, I walk in, I speak, I get voted in, and there's a girl there, and I can tell she has a chip on her shoulder. It's ready to knock this chip off. Come on. And so I go up to her because I can just see it in her face she's not too enthused. I have not wowed her. Okay? And that's okay, no problem, because I felt called there, and it was God's will. And I go up to her and I say, how you doing? Her name was Tony, and I said, how are you doing? And she goes, you know what? You're the 5th youth pastor in the last 5 years at this church. I've been here the whole time. I'll outstay you. What are you bringing to the table? She's about 15 years old or so. I thought she kind of blew me out a little bit, but I thought, you're kind of articulate, but I understand the hurt. As it turned out, I stayed a while. She was gone before I was, actually, but she had really come back to Christ. But you're exactly right, bro. I don't know about some statistics with students as far as staying with the faith, but as far as healthy churches, there's just no way, if the staff is always leaving, you don't have a healthy environment, and students aren't going to appreciate that. Or at least if they stick around like this guy, Tony, they're going to be mad and bitter, and they're going to be a challenge. So I think it's I think it's a really huge deal, and that's a whole talk on church health. Right? We just, and I don't meet many people anymore. I did when I first started that would say, hey, I want to be a senior pastor someday. That's why I'm doing youth ministry right now. And you guys, I think on the panel, Troy, I think you talked about it maybe, or one of you guys mentioned don't make it a stepping stone. Amen to that. I don't hear that as much anymore. But when we go into a church, we need to be thinking and praying and fasting and whatever, I think, and saying, Lord, I'm willing to stay here until you come back. Either you're going to have to move me or you're going to move us all, but I don't want to even come here, if it's going to be short-lived. We have a guy, Brian, remember Guy Drummond? down in Southern Cal. We have a brother at a church. This is his 25th year of being a youth pastor at one church. And I tell everybody, that's our goal. That's our goal. God won't always allow you to do that, we know. But that's our goal, because talk about generations, junior high students that he had, now their junior high students are in the same man's youth group. But he's progressive and open, and when I see a campus ministry and training like Tom would do, this brother named Guy, he's on the front row, and I go, what a blessing. He's still learning. So that's our goal. And what has it done? Lots of healthy students. So you're so right, bro. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. I think the national average is still 18 months, for a youth pastor. So if you've been at your church longer than 18 months, way to go. Keep going. The students need you. And I always, as a goal was, if the junior high or 7th grade, I'd sure like to be there as long with them till they graduate from high school. That'd be cool. Then you walk like with a generation. That would be cool. That'd be awesome.
Thank you for listening to the 2012 Fusion Podcast. For more information on the Oregon Ministry Network and our events, please visit our website at oregonag.org.